Laura Guerrero is 23 and she sells clothes, but she wants to be Miss Bala California. She and her best friend Suzu show up at the pageant registration. Inside, the coordinator examines Laura, checks her nails, tells her they look like a maid's nails, then says she's in and she should show tomorrow morning Teddy for rehearse. That evening, Suzu helps Laura with her nails for tomorrow's rehearsal. While they're working, Suzu's boyfriend Javi, a cop of some kind, arrives at the shop and invites them to a nightclub. Laura refuses at first. She'd rather finish her nails than spend the night partying, but she eventually agrees to go. Inside the club, Laura sees drunk Javi grab Suzu inappropriately. Laura steps in and says, "Don't touch her like that, asshole." And there was a little confrontation, then Suzu takes her to the toilet and apologizes and tells her Javi and his friends have connections that could help Laura in the pageant. Laura isn't convinced, calling them assholes, tells her if she wants them to leave, let her talk, that she is waiting for her at the front, goes back in the club, while Laura was arranging herself to go back outside. As Laura fixes her makeup in the restroom, strange noises echo through the ceiling. Before she can react, armed men crash through the roof. Realizing it's a cartel raid, she ducks into a stall and holds her breath, praying they don't notice she's there. Laura's hiding doesn't last long. The cartel leader spots her but doesn't kill her immediately. He just asks her how many people are in the club. When she says she doesn't know, instead of killing her, he unexpectedly lets her go. But before she can run and get Suzu so they can leave, heavy gunfire erupts. Laura manages to escape through a restroom window and hides behind a parked car. From her hiding spot, she watches as the cartel loads the bodies of the dead officers into their vehicles. Sirens blare in the distance, and the cartel quickly packs up their weapons and flees in their trucks, leaving a bloodbath behind. Once the cartel flees, Laura rushes back toward the club, desperate to find Suzu. But by the time she gets there, the police have already arrived and sealed off the area, refusing to let anyone inside. With no way of searching for her friend, Laura spends the rest of the night waiting outside, hoping Suzu will eventually come out, but she never does. Laura heads to the pageant rehearsal the next morning, only to be turned away by the coordinator despite pleading for another chance. Desperate for help, Laura approaches a local traffic officer begging for his help to find Suzu. She tells him she was at the club that was attacked yesterday and saw everything. The cop tells her to get in his car so they can go to the station to make a report. But instead of taking her to the police, the corrupt cop drives her to a cartel hideout and hands her straight to the cartel. The men beat her, take her phone, and bring her before their boss. He interrogates Laura, demanding her name, phone number, where she lives, and why she was at the club. After learning about Suzu's disappearance and Laura's pageant dreams, he makes her a terrifying offer. Lino promises to help Laura find Suzu and get back into the pageant if she does one favor for him. With no other choice, she reluctantly agrees. He hands her the keys to a vehicle and orders her to park it at a specific address before walking away. Laura has no idea she's just been used to deliver the bodies from the nightclub massacre, including a commander, a DEA agent, and an unidentified young woman, to the American embassy. Once the deed is done, Lino takes her back to the pageant and uses his powerful cartel influence to force the coordinators to accept Laura back into the Miss Baja California competition. Lino gives her a new phone so he can contact her at any time, hands her money to buy a pageant dress, and assigns his men to watch her every move. Despite the surveillance, Laura slips out through the back of the rehearsal venue. She heads out to buy a dress but changes her mind and decides to go home instead. On her way, she is ambushed by a group of men. She tries to run, but they catch her, take the phone Lino gave her, and drive off, leaving her on the street. She makes it home, taps on the window, and gets Arturo's attention. Her little brother lets her in through the window so her father does not find out she was out. Inside, they talk quietly. Arturo asks what happened. She says nothing. She asks him about school, then gives him the money Lino gave her for the dress since she never bought it. Suddenly, Lino shows up at the house, armed, limping, and injured. He asks about the phone. He wants to know who took it, how many of them there were, and what trucks they were driving. She tells him it was 6 or 7 men in black trucks, and that they hit her, took the phone, and drove off. Lino is not asking to comfort her. He is investigating who hit his operation, because whoever those men were, they were not his people. Then, in order for Lino to let Laura's brother and dad go, he forces Laura to drive across the United States border with thousands of dollars of illegal cartel money strapped tightly under her clothes. Sweating and shaking, she approaches the Border Patrol checkpoint. The officer asks for her passport and questions her, but miraculously, he lets her pass. However, as soon as she crosses into the U.S. at the designated drop-off, Laura meets an American contact who strips her of the smuggled cash, and in exchange he loads a truck with heavy ammunition and hands her the keys, giving her a crucial message to deliver to Lino that a man named Kike Camara is hiding out in Tijuana under the alias Orlando Gomez. Laura drives the heavily loaded truck back toward Mexico, but her return trip is violently interrupted when she is ambushed. And just as the situation becomes desperate, Lino's men arrive to rescue her. A brutal shootout erupts, and amidst the deafening chaos they manage to escape. And once safe, Laura delivers the ammunition and relays the message about Kike Camara's whereabouts. After switching vehicles to avoid detection, Lino forces a terrified and deeply traumatized Laura straight back into the beauty pageant, where completely numb she goes through the motions, putting on her swimsuit and evening gown to walk the stage. During the interview portion, the host asks her a seemingly simple question about whether she desires wealth or fame. Unable to answer, Laura stands frozen as tears stream down her face. Under normal circumstances, her silence would have ended her chances. But this pageant was never fair. Thanks to Lino's influence, she's crowned Miss Baja California anyway. Overwhelmed by the crushing reality of her situation, Laura flees the building. Lino soon catches up to her, hands her a stack of money, and surprisingly tells her she's free to leave if that's what she truly wants. Laura walks away, but the fear and psychological hold he has over her prove impossible to escape. She turns back, and the two end up spending the night together. The following day, Lino acts on the intel Laura provided and captures Kike, recording a chilling video of his captive before brutally executing him. And to send a terrifying message, Lino hangs Kike's body from a public bridge as a gruesome retaliation against U.S. security forces for their previous ambush. The horrific truth of the conflict is finally revealed, as Kike was an undercover USDA agent, and furthermore, he was the very same man who had intercepted Laura on the street days earlier to confiscate the phone Lino had given her. With Laura now a high-profile public figure, Lino sets the final phase of his plan into motion. He uses her newly acquired title as Miss Baja California as the perfect bait to lure out his biggest enemy, General Salomon Duarte, the ruthless military commander leading the war against the cartel. Lino hands her a secret phone and gives her strict instructions. She is to flirt with the general and seduce him. Once they are inside his private hotel room, she must call Lino and leave the line open without hanging up. This will allow the cartel to listen in and track her location to the exact room. At the glamorous pageant after-party, Laura was introduced to General Salomon Duarte. He tells her she has a nice appearance and sends her a drink. As she sits alone for a brief moment and glances at a newspaper left nearby, the horrific truth stares back at her from the page. One of the bodies was Suzu. The realization shatters Laura. She had unknowingly transported her own best friend's corpse to the American embassy. Yet before she can even process the grief, she's forced to continue smiling as the newly crowned beauty queen. Soon after, General Duarte officially requests her presence. Masking her crushing grief behind the fake smile of a beauty queen, Laura complies and allows herself to be led upstairs to his private hotel room. Once inside, she subtly follows Lino's orders. She dials his number, leaves the call connected, and hides the phone so Lino can hear everything and pinpoint their exact location, while the general tells her to make herself a drink and start getting undressed. As the general begins to make his advances, Laura stands paralyzed. She leans close to him and says quietly, "They are going to kill you. They are listening to us." The general believes her warning and immediately alerts his men. Within moments, military forces flood the hotel, ready to counter the cartel's attack. The hotel instantly erupts into a war zone. Caught in the middle of the crossfire, Laura dives beneath the bed as bullets rip through the room. Laura hides under the bed during a chaotic shootout between the cartel and the military. Lino enters the room to check for survivors and plan his escape. He strips off his signature jacket and hat and places them on a dead body in the room to create a decoy and convince the military that the cartel leader is dead. And then Lino bends down and looks directly under the bed where he makes eye contact with Laura. He realizes she is a witness to his trick, but instead of killing her or rescuing her, he silently leaves her there to act as a distraction. And as Lino slips away in his disguise, seconds later, military reinforcements storm the room. They find the dead body in Lino's clothes and assume the leader is dead before pulling Laura out from under the bed. The corrupt military and government officials use her as a scapegoat. They brutally beat her and force her to hold weapons to parade her in front of television cameras, falsely framing the victimized beauty queen as a high-ranking member of the cartel. But after using Laura as their scapegoat, the corrupt authorities have no further use for her. Instead of booking her into a real prison or giving her a fair trial, they drive her to a deserted street in the back of a military truck, and when the rear doors swing open, they shove her onto the road without a single word. Bruised and exhausted with her hands still tightly bound in handcuffs, Laura watches as the truck pulls away into the distance, completely abandoning her to face the devastating aftermath of a nightmare she never chose as the movie finally fades to black.